Good evening, guys. We are here doing a live stream for the Missouri Militia, the 4th Battalion, 8th Brigade. We're based out of Springfield, Missouri. And since a lot of the meeting rooms that we usually use are closed at the moment, libraries, that kind of thing, because of the whole COVID nonsense, we decided to go ahead and do a live stream, and just that way you can get some measure of training and get some information from us. And so we've got the guys here, a lot of the longtime members. We have Captain Cagle, Doc, Warren, and Steve, and I'm Dave. I'm the lieutenant. So we're going to cover some general topics tonight on kind of who we are and why we do what we do. And if we have some time left over, we'll go ahead and take some questions as well.
All right, today's topic is going to be on why a militia. I know why I joined the militia, but I wanted to know why my elders here, and I don't take that literally, but why they decided to start a militia in the first place. Because we've been around now for over 10 years, hasn't it? Yeah.
About 12, I think.
And I've been, I've heard the stories through these guys, because I'm the CO, and it came into my mind, I should say, that why did these guys start it? So, Warren, you want to go ahead and start? Why did you feel like you had to start a Missouri Militia?
I honestly do not remember where I heard about the militia. I don't know if it was at a gun show and I saw a booth some guys putting on. I don't remember if I heard on the radio. Anyway, something told me to get involved with them. Things was getting nasty back years ago, and you can just see the handwriting on the wall, and I felt like I needed to do something about it, get my feet wet and learn a few things, and so I decided to join up.
Okay, but now what about your background? What is your background? I like a lot of people don't understand, that we all come from different backgrounds. We all have other kind of jobs that we do. So what was it?
I'm a retired firefighter, and so I had certain trainings and expertise here and there doing different things, and most of us are CERT members with the emergency response training, and it's just part of the program. You need to, if you're wanting to help people, you want to help your neighbors, your community, your county, and you need to have certain trainings. And so,
okay, thank you very much. All right, Doc, you're up. Why did you feel like you needed the Missouri Militia? Because I've done my research, right, and I do believe back in the 80s, if I'm right, there was a
80s and 90s.
80s and 90s. There was called the Missouri 51st Militia. Is that right? And
the old 51st.
Yeah, the old 50. You could watch them on
YouTube, and those. I think they're even on Amazon Prime or Netflix.
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
It's like a half-hour documentary.
And it's really good. It really is.
Yeah,
good.
It's pretty decent.
And that's where I guess Colonel Sumter came from, because he said that he used to be a part of the 51st. But yeah, go ahead, Doc. What led up to the Missouri Militia?
Okay, well, this particular unit of the Missouri Militia has been around longer than this particular unit. But we started, the first organizational meetings were as a response to a request by Vincent Jericho, I think was the head of the radio show here in Springfield. And he called a organizational meeting and had Colonel Sumter and now Colonel Felix, I guess, Captain Felix, come down from Kansas City. He was a flunky at that time, and we had approximately 150 to 175 people at the first organizational meeting. It was in the fall of 2009, and about 2 weeks later, Dave was there, I know, for that meeting. About 2 weeks or a month later, we had another meeting, and there was about 100 people at that meeting, and that was down at
one of the coffee shops downtown.
Yeah, coffee shop downtown in Springfield. And I believe it was at that meeting where we elected officers and passed the bylaws and all that kind of thing, which still exist in the organization today. At that time, training was supposed to begin and the original CO that was elected got called away to do contractor work overseas somewhere. So everything kind of evaporated. Then in April of 2010, Captain Taylor, who's now deceased, was our original CO. We elected him, but he was the one that actually called the first training session. We had it at a conservation area up near Willard. Did some land nav work. There was 5 of us there. Dave was there, I was there, Captain Taylor was there, and then one other active member now and his father were there. So originally there was 5 of us. We had another meeting after that, the same 5 again, and at the next meeting then we had 3 more people come, and 2 of them are still with the unit. So that's how we started. Captain Taylor came up with the mission for our group to be responsive and reactive to needs in our community, basically doing community service and that type of thing. And we've helped numerous people in the area, both privately and in disaster response relief and searches and that type of thing. Altogether, we've probably had, what would you guess, probably 80 people have joined over the years.
Off and on.
And they'll be active for a while and then they'll drop out. And what we need, we still have a core group of people that have always been active, and then we add a few all the time, so the core grows. We get up to a pretty good sized group, and we get a group of people in an area, and then they form another unit in that area. So we have a lot of people we can call on around the area, but our actual group is not real large. We're always looking for new members that meet the requirements.
The motto you were referring to earlier is just serving community, county, and state. So
we still go with that today.
Yeah, we still go with that today. It's on the signature line for our emails and all that. So that is kind of our driving force. Yeah, we do the military style stuff as well, but that's part of what we do. It's not all of what we do. We also do disaster response. We went out to Joplin when they got hit back in 11, was it? We've gone to flooding in Waynesville. We've done several tornadoes. We've done search and rescue. So just kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did 300 plus hours when I saw the record in Joplin. You guys beat the National Guard in.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
I mean,
figure that one out, right?
Yeah, I mean, that hit. I remember it was a Sunday night, and it hit right after dark, and we had guys ready to go that night. The local law enforcement told us not to go because, I mean, street signs are down, street lights are out, couldn't see where you were going. So really, it would have been a kind of adding to the mess. But like I said, we had guys ready to go. They went the next morning, Monday morning, at first light. They were off. They got there, and all of our guys, we aim to be self-sufficient. So when we get there, we've got chainsaws, we've got saws, tools, fuel, food, water. We come in with all the stuff we need. And when the National Guard finally got there later that day, they had gloves. And that's it.
Actually, in Joplin, when the tornado hit, the sister unit in Joplin actually had people that were part of the first responders and actually went in and went into the buildings and checked for survivors and injured people. So actually, the Missouri Militia, in fact, did have first responders actually in the area when the tornado hit.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Wow. I know my wife was a nurse at a convalescent home, and it hit, and she goes, "Oh no, they're nursing homes." So she called the nursing home that she was at, got a hold of the DON, and she told them, "Hey, we're going to be getting their people." And sure enough, within an hour, they were phone calls, and she went in to help work with that tornado. So yeah, that was one of the big ones. Okay.
I think part of the emphasis too, that was around the time that Obama got elected his first term, and so there was a lot of more conservative leaning people that were, I mean, that was part of the impetus. You know, there was a lot of groups around that time that kind of started, even though the statewide organization was already up and running, it kind of spurred on the creation of the local group here, as people were kind of concerned about what might happen.
Right, with all the school shootings and everything. You know, that's still tragic. You know, that happened. Now, Dave, you joined in at what time in this whole bunch of men right here?
I was at those original meetings as well.
Okay.
Basically, from day one, there was a little bit of a lull there, like Doc mentioned. But once we actually got a hold of some people, we lost an email list somewhere, and once we got kind of recreated a list and kind of started back up again, and I've been with it ever since. You know, people come and go. I've tried to stick with it for a number of reasons. I mean,
you have. You're a good XO, man. I could not do it without you. I can tell you that.
And just, I'm nothing to shake a stick at. You know, when I started, I knew nothing. You know, I mean, private would have been a high honor for me when I started, because I didn't know jack diddly or squat. And so all the stuff that I know now is from consistently coming to the meetings, right, hanging out with these guys, asking questions, learning from them. You know, I mean, I doubt that there's very little that I've taught you, but I've learned a great deal from the people around me. And that's one of the benefits that I see of being part of a group like this, is whatever skills you might not have, yeah, you can learn them. That's right. And you don't have to have them already to become a part of the group. You can learn them. Come learn. If you have a skill that you can teach, all the better. Right. But, you know, fill in the gaps.
I mean, just the medical part of it, when my wife came in, you know, the medical changed. Yep. You know, we have T's now, tourniquets. And so she took a course to benefit her with the guys that just came back from Afghanistan, the medics that came back then. She went down for a day and learned that, and she came back. We have to change everything, our way of thinking about how to give, you know, the tourniquets and, you know, and all that. And we do like a pop-up drill once in a while. We'll throw somebody a tourniquet and say, okay, you have 30 seconds. What are you going to do with it, you know? So, yeah. All right, well, we're at that point. I just want to let everybody know, too, that we are pro-Constitution. Missouri Constitution, we are pro-Second Amendment, First Amendment. If it's the Constitution of the United States and the state of Missouri, we're pro. We don't care what's going on, you know, but we do train to act if something does happen. Militia has a really bad name, but we like to try to change that. You know, we want to make it a positive name, that we are out there helping the community when a tornado hits or a person is lost, you know, and we go out there and help. All right, well, next I'm going to bring up is Steve. Steve's been with us for, I'm going to say, 5 years, because I've been with the groups. You came in right after I did. Mm-hmm. Steve, you're prior military. Yes. You were in a scout with the CAV.
Yep.
So
scout.
Right. So.
Make sure you're talking to your mic there.
So yeah, prior military. I've served as a contractor as well, and I have also volunteered with various law enforcement groups over the years, and that's what I bring to the group. As far as my reasons, first of all, let me clarify. I don't think that one joins the militia. I think that's a misnomer. I think that what one does is be responsible, because like it or not, the militia it's in law. It's in federal statute and also militia statute. I've got copies of it here. Missouri Revised Statutes, Chapter 41, 41.050. The militia of the state shall include all able-bodied citizens and all other able-bodied residents. The unorganized militia shall consist of all persons liable to serve in the militia but not commissioned or enlisted in the organized militia, which would be the National Guard. So we all are. It's just a matter of whether we take responsibility or not. Upon my end of service, I remember buying an M1 carbine and a web belt, and it hung on a hook. I was well regulated, which means well trained, and I took that, and that was the beginning. That was quite a few years ago. And
Yeah, that's one thing. Kind of jumping off of what you were saying, is most people don't realize, they think that the militia is that group over there.
right,
No, it's not that group. It's you.
right. You are the militia, whether you assume that responsibility or not. It's up to you, and not everybody can do it. I understand that. I get that, but we all should, as much as we can. If you can't serve in the military, you can serve your neighborhood, your community. You can learn CPR. You can go pick up trash. Something. We all have a part to play and add something to it, no matter where we come from, what walk of life we came from.
And that's true. That there's so many other things that you can do. A lot of times we need comms guys. We need
Right.
First aid people. Maybe you can't get around, but you can stay back and watch the vehicles while we go take down a tree after a disaster.
When I was in Joplin, there was two elderly ladies in their late 70s, early 80s, and I was really taken by them because the three of them were our communications to the Senate House and Missouri State House and the Capitol and stuff. And what they did was they wrote letters to the governors, to all the state people, and kept up on stuff like that. Sure, they can't get out there and run through the woods and lift things and cut up trees and pick buildings up off of people, but they can. There's something that they can do. Everybody can do something. You can cook. You can mail letters. You can make phone calls. You can
Observe and report.
Yeah, observer.
I mean, if they see something, they should go ahead and notify the sheriff's department or the police department. But observe and report is the main key of anything.
I agree. I mean, there's always something. Just lost my train of thought, but I mean, the other thing that at Joplin is there was a guy. He was an older gentleman. He couldn't get around very much, but he had a machine that he could use to sharpen the blades for chainsaws, and so he sat there on his truck bed, and he did the sharpening of the blades that morning to evening. That's all he did.
Service.
But that's one thing, you don't have to stop and do that because he's already doing it, and so you don't take an able-bodied person out of the mix.
Right. That's true. I guess that's me now. What did I do this for? I didn't show up to a meeting, so I got, they elected me as captain. That's my line. I'm sticking with it.
That's what happened to me
True
too.
story.
That is
right, 'cause
exactly
you were
what
the
happened to
CO,
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I still
didn't-
remember that meeting.
The first meeting I didn't show up for, I came back and I was the XO the next week.
See, that's why we need to encourage you to show up, because you might end up an officer.
That's right. I joined about, it's going on probably almost 7 years now. I'm getting up there in age with you guys. So, yeah. Actually, I was never political growing up. I remember we had to take the Constitution in high school or middle school, and then after that, I didn't really care. I didn't. I was one of those guys that didn't care about the government, the president. I didn't care. And then when I moved out here, back in 2009, I met my wife, and then I was talking to my brother-in-law who just got back from Afghanistan, and he was like, we need to do something. We need to start prepping. So the first thing I did is prep, right? I understand that because I lived in Florida for 4 years, and I've been through every hurricane in Florida, going weeks, 2 weeks, almost a month without water or electricity. So I said, prepping? Yeah, I could do that. I understand that. I mean, I lived in Gainesville, Florida, and the closest motel was in North Carolina. I wasn't driving North Carolina to take a shower. I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. So I understand the prepping, but then I wanted to get in a little bit more of shooting. So I took some courses on tactical shooting and stuff. And then I was watching this one guy on YouTube. He was talking about, you need to join a local militia. You need to do this. I've heard bad things about the militia. So, just wrap it all up. Somebody posted Missouri Militia, and I went to the website, filled it out, and then next thing I know, I was on talking to Dave by email, and I remember the first thing. What's line one gear?
Line one gear is basically the very minimum that you should have if you go to do anything. That would be preferably some kind of rifle, something to carry ammunition, water, very important, a first aid kit, and something to carry your basic supplies. So a poncho, that kind of stuff. It's stuff that you would throw on real quick and go.
And I had most of that. So I was like, all right, cool. So when's training? I bugged him. I don't think you remember that, but I bugged him back and forth with
I don't.
email. You don't remember that?
I do not.
Well, I'm glad you don't.
Kind of along, kind of jumping off of that, we
Sure.
had a question that was sent in. It says, where'd it go? Here, one of them is, why is the membership in the militia relatively low, and why should people consider joining? And then this one is more apropos. How is the modern militia different than the historical militia of the Revolutionary War?
Who wants to take that one? Steve, that's up in your area of expertise.
Why should someone be active in the militia? Again, because if you feel responsible, if you want to take part, if you want to assist your community and just doing what's right, regardless of whether we're responding to a natural disaster or search and rescue or something of a military nature happens, you're ready. You learn skills that will help you in an emergency. You'll be the one that's calm and takes care of things. As far as how does the modern militia differ from the old one? Only in terms of technology. Actually, one of my favorite founding fathers, Tench Cox, if anybody knows that name, good on you. He had this to say: the powers of the sword are in the hands of the yeomanry of America from 16 to 60. This was at the time. The militia of these free commonwealths, entitled and accustomed to their arms when compared with any possible army, must be tremendous and irresistible. Who are the militia? Are they not ourselves? It is feared then that we shall turn our arms each man against his own bosom. Congress has no power to disarm the militia. Congress have no power to disarm the militia. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier are the birthright of an American.
All right. Well, I hope that answers that question.
I think this is kind of in addition to that. I think the only thing that's really all that different, other than, like you said, equipment, would be the obvious thing. But back then they didn't have what we would now consider police. Or a standing army, for that matter.
Yeah,
and so there are additional layers. It doesn't change who the militia is or
Right.
why they should be involved.
Right.
But, and that I think has been, the other question was, why is membership so low? I think people see those other organizations. They see the police, they see
Right.
FEMA and SEMA and the Army and all of the National Guard and all of those, and they think, well, they'll take care of it. And so they just push it off because they don't have to do it. It's not a necessity for them. Back then it was a necessity. It was, you lived out in the middle of nowhere. Your nearest neighbor was a half-hour horse ride away.
Yeah.
So whatever you were going to do, you were going to do. And so, but nowadays we call 911 or send in the National Guard or whatever. So it doesn't seem as pressing, even though it should be, because we shouldn't be that dependent on that size of government.
I think additionally, it's the lack of education on the militia, like
True.
just the fact that it's enshrined in law, it's in statute, federal and state. It's supposed to be, and
Yes.
the name militia is equated with people, doing illegal things, or it's branded on people that didn't actually earn it. They weren't part of a militia.
Right.
They weren't doing the right thing, and that may be partially why some people don't join, is the stigma
Yeah,
of the name.
and there is a stigma, especially after, was it the Michigan militia and some of those. The news media put it out there, and I'm sure they don't like us at all.
No.
And so that didn't help anything. And I mean, we've tried really hard to make sure that we don't add to the bad taste.
That's right.
When we
Describe the vetting process.
so the vetting process, we require mostly one of two things: either a conceal and carry permit, which requires a background check, or if you don't have one or don't want to get one of those, you can also do a background check with the Highway Patrol. Also, anything that requires a federal background check, so like a hazmat rating on a CDL, something like that.
A nurse, a doctor.
Yeah, anything that requires that you have been vetted through the, I forget what they call the system, the NCIS or that kind of thing. And the idea is, because I mean, we've had some people that have been wanting to join, but they had a felony, and we have to say thank you but no thank you, because we're just trying to make sure that something doesn't come back on us if something happens.
Follow guidelines as clean as possible.
Yeah.
You know, and if somebody in the group got in trouble and we found out about it later, we would go ahead and vote them out. Because what we do, we also vote people in. Right.
Yeah. And we do ask that you come to 2 or 3 of our meetings at least. And that's more of a, you get to know us, we get to know you. And that way you kind of get a feel for, is it something you want to do? And that also helps us kind of judge you as, okay, his background check came back, but he or she is walking, you know, a hair's breadth away from the line, then maybe it's not a good fit. You know, it's you're not a bad person. It just, maybe you're better off doing your own thing so that you don't bring another bad taste into the mouth of people in reference to the militia.
And we've had some of that. We have. You know, I ain't going to mention names or anything, but we've had, you know, people that we've had, please don't come back. Their way of thinking and our way of thinking is just totally different. So,
I mean, we had people, and I'm sure some of you have been there for these, that have come to our trainings, and they have literally asked the question, when do we learn to blow stuff up?
Yeah. No,
we don't. That, you know, there are people in the group that know how to do that kind of stuff because they're prior military, etc. But that is not a skill we teach. If it hits the fan and the law no longer matters, well, that's another story. But you're not going to learn how to blow anything up because that's not what we do. We're not interested in being subversives. Like Billy said, we are pro-Constitution. We work with law enforcement. You know, we want to be an asset to the community. We don't want to do things that would harm the community.
Right, right. I mean, we're here for our community, our country, our counties, our families. You know, I also say family first. You know, because if you don't feel comfortable, if I put out an email or on Facebook and I say, hey, I need guys to go here, it is up to you to come out and do it. I'm not going to go to your door, knock on it. Hello, why didn't you show up? We're not going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. You know, you have a family. Protect your family.
Yeah, totally. And that's one thing. I mean, it's volunteer, and this, some of you guys can jump in on this too. I'm also part of a local church here, and we face some of the same struggles with getting volunteers at church as we do with the militia. That people say, well, you don't have this going on, right? Because we don't have enough people. And guess what? If you came, we would have the people to do it.
So are you volunteering?
I don't think I need to volunteer for another thing. Right. But
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about anybody.
Oh yeah, true. And so I mean, there's lots of things that we could do at a different level if you show up.
Right.
And you know, like I said before, we don't know everything. If you have a skill to teach, we're teachable. We'll be happy to learn from you. And there's probably stuff that we can teach you, but you know, we can't do that if you're not there.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead. One thing, like you're talking about different skill sets and stuff, you know, a mechanic, a cook, right on down the line, all kinds of different skills,
Gardening,
welders,
canning.
Right.
anything.
I know that we need more comms. We need more people that have their
radios, ham
right,
licenses,
right? Because
and
we
all
want to
that.
do
Yes.
that. You know, that's one thing. It's a key thing in the militia is.
And you're going to need
communication.
you're going to need the communications if the towers go down and you know
Right.
the net goes down or something.
I mean, this
the
whole
hams,
Corona 19 thing. we did a check-in call, and some of the people didn't check in. So
Well, even during Joplin, I mean, it literally took out some of the cell towers, and the ones that were left were just jammed because people were trying to reach family members and all that. And so it was an asset to have people that could run ham radios, and so they could bypass all of that and still get word in and out without having to tax the system. And that's part of the thought process as to why we come in already prepared. We come in with our own comms, we come in with our own fuel, our own food, so that when we arrive, we're not taxing, the supplies that are.
You're not a drain on the system.
Yeah, we're
You're
not
an
a drain on
asset.
the system. They can give the stuff that's been given for disaster relief can go to the people that need it, and we don't have to take from that.
is there any more questions out there? Are we good? Or
Let me check real quick. I don't know if Warren might know this one. Does the Appleseed Project still exist in the state of Missouri?
I have no idea. I think it does, but I'm not.
I think it does too.
I don't know what that is. So go ahead and
Shooting
educate me.
That's the
fundamentals.
little silhouette.
Oh, yeah, that's what that was.
We use their,
Conservation may know. Be able to get hold of Conservation Commission and find out.
Alan would probably know.
yeah. So I think it is. I haven't heard from them in a while, but I'm pretty sure that they're still out there. So another question here. Some people may not be able to be physically active in the militia. What kinds of things can they do? What skills are useful and important?
Oh, wow. Like we just talked about, security.
Communications.
Right, communications. Sometimes we would go out and train. This last one that we had comms, and we're trying to do it a little bit more real. So we had a medical dummy out in the field. Well, we gave the guys a nav course to follow. So now you're working on your nav skills, right? They had to follow these pinpoints, and then they had to find the medical dummy and give the medical dummy first aid. He had wounds in his pocket. They pulled them out. They had to read them, find out what it is, do the first aid, and then we had to bring him back in. So yeah, more comms would have been nice that day.
Yep. And there's something that people don't understand. In the military, now there's probably average about 12 people in support of every trigger pulling soldier out there. And today, in today's military, most of that is done by civilians like myself as contractors. But the same thing exists with us. For every person that's capable to run out and ruck and carry a rifle, they need the support they need. They need cooks, they need medical, they need commo, they need somebody just to watch things, at a stationary LPOP. There's so many things. Every necessary thing that a society needs, a cohesive society, is needed in a militia.
Even like
You are valuable.
administrative stuff, keeping track of
Yeah.
paperwork,
Computers. I mean, there's so many skills.
doing this kind of stuff. I mean,
Exactly.
I kind of fell into it, but I don't know that much about it. I mean, I could use somebody to help, kind of run it and coordinate it and get the word out and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, all of those things. So it doesn't just have to be, like you said, a trigger puller. It's all of the other stuff.
It's a community effort. It takes a community. There's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think as a militia we raise each other. These guys right here are my mentors. I might be the captain, but I listen to each one of these guys that give me advice. I take it in, I soak it in, and I learn from these guys because I'm not perfect, but with these guys right here, it makes my job just a little bit easier because I can ask Doc, I can ask Warren, I can ask Steve, I can ask Dave, what about this? And they will give me the feedback back, and I appreciate that. So if I had never said I appreciate you guys, hey, I appreciate you.
I can definitely say that since this unit began, it's changed a lot. Our training is constantly changing. The only thing that's really stayed the same is our mission has been the same since the start, and I don't think that will ever change. But they were talking about what can I do if I'm not physically able to go out and hump a ruck or whatever. I do the comms for the unit is basically my specialty, and we serve such a big area down here that we can't even communicate with 2-meter radios. Some of us can. Warren and I can if we make special arrangements. I can talk to Dave. He's in Springfield. I'm out here 25 miles away. Billy, you're what, 80 miles from where I live?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so it's
we
out in Cedar
used
County.
to be, and to make this point, about 15 miles east of us, there used to be a repeater that was 800 feet in the air, and we could talk to each of us on that repeater because it was so high up in the air. That tower fell down, and our inter-unit communication was down overnight.
Yeah. Now that it did take quite a blow.
Yeah, and it's been hard to get back. And we've trained some people. We had an amateur radio licensing class that I did the instruction for, and 2 other of our members were VEs and helped give the examinations and everything. I can use some more people that can do that, so we can do it again.
Yeah, so if you're in the Springfield area and you have your comms license, look us up. We'll need you.
And you don't have to be in Springfield. We've got people from West Plains, Bolivar, Buffalo, Stockton Lake, Arkansas.
And there
We're
are
all over.
a number of units. If you go to the state website, which is MissouriMilitia.com, shameless plug, the state is divided up geographically. So when we say we're 4th Battalion, 8th Brigade, that's not an issue of numbers of people. That's an issue of where we're located physically in the state of Missouri. Right. So depending on where you're at, you would be designated based on your location.
Right. And we have a unit in Joplin, the 3rd of the 8th. Those guys down there. We have a group in Lebanon, the 2nd of the 8th. We have another unit down in Willow Springs that is the Delta Company of 4th of the 8th, so they're our sister. Now we have the 1st of the 8th that's right outside of Bolivar. Yeah. And now we have, I just got the email on this one, now we have the 1st of the 9th. And I talked to that CO, and he was actually an officer in the Army, and he was with the engineers. So he's going to be joining us too. I've got his email information. I haven't called him yet, but I just want to welcome these new people on board because we are growing slowly, but we are growing.
And you can be involved with any unit that you want if you're willing to make the extra drive. You're not assigned to a unit or anything like that. You can volunteer to be with. If you're with a group of people that you enjoy being with, stay there. That's the point.
Yeah, and we have some people that will go to depending on what they'll look at what training is being done, and it's like, oh, they're doing this, I'll go train with them
wherever I want.
So kind of that way you can train wherever you want. Like I said, quick question here that was sent in: do you have to have prior military experience to join?
No,
you do not. As we read Steve read in the definition for the militia, no. So long as you're an able-bodied male, basically, is the definition of militia. We do
but
not.
there are females,
right?
Able-bodied
citizens.
Able-bodied citizen. I'm good with that. And we do have some ladies that are involved, and they do a great job.
Yes.
They're usually not out in the field, but they can be if they want to be. We have no issue with that. Right. But typically they'll stay back and do comms and do first aid and that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, you do not have to have any military experience.
No, I didn't have any. I mean, back in '94, I was.
Me neither.
I went to the Reserve Police Academy, and then after that, I took on 2 different malls in California. So I was a mall walker with mall rats that I had to deal with. But that's where I came from.
Another question here, real quick. How does the militia interact with local communities, particularly given the disintegration of the American communities?
Not well.
Hopefully that'll change. I mean, it seems like now more than ever, the concept of militia is important with the disintegration of police departments and community cohesion all across the country. We're a little bit insulated here from what's going on to some extent, but everything we can do to come together, train together, work together is a benefit. It's a plus.
And you build a friendship. You really do. That's a key thing. You get to meet people. If you're like me, I don't like people, so but I stuck my neck out, met these guys, and then think, hey, I know I miss a meeting. I'm the captain.
A couple more quick questions. How does one donate to the militia if need be? We don't have an electronic way to do that. Primarily, we donate time. Of course, we show up. We do take dues. We have some equipment that we have as a unit, some tents, some that kind of stuff, and that's what we use the dues for. So they are. We collect them until we have a need for a tent or a grill or a radio.
Just give your email if they want to make a donation.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into 4-H.
If you want to email us, it's momilitia48@outlook.com. You can also go through the state website. There's a link there as well to reach us that way, and we can make arrangements if you would like. Another quick one. Do you provide your own weapons and ammo? Yes, we are entirely self-funded. That's why we do the dues. We do have some equipment that belongs to the unit, but that was all based on donations. We don't get any money from local authorities, from state authorities, from anybody. Everything that we bring in ourselves. And if you don't have a bunch of the stuff, don't worry about it. We would prefer that you come out and you get the training so that you know how to use the stuff. Figure out what you need and then go buy it. Get a good pair of shoes or boots so that you don't twist an ankle. Other than that, just come out and train. And most of us have a bunch of stuff, but that's because we've been accumulating it for a long time.
Years, yeah.
Right. I've gone through 2 plate carriers and then a low bearing one, and I think I'm done now.
No, you're not. So yeah,
it's never ending.
Long, hard days, long hours, no pay, and buy all your stuff, and have zero respect from people, then come on, join us.
Yeah,
Sign you up.
You'll learn a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Let me check real quick. I think we answered most of them. Yeah, that's about it. So just as a...
I have one other comment.
Okay, go ahead.
No. Well, yeah, nothing leaves nothing. One other thing we didn't mention that Dave brought it up with unit equipment and everything, we do have a kitchen that we can take to an emergency situation and feed. I think Bob said like 100 people or 150
between
people,
100 and 200,
like
yeah.
So we're pretty capable on that kind of thing. So anybody that's out there in a community, if you have a natural disaster of some kind or something where you need that type of equipment, and we can man it, and we're happy to have help from the community to help us, but we can supply our own cooks, and we have a pretty darn good cook. So
he's very good.
So that's out there available too.
We typically don't, because of how we operate, we don't typically keep like the perishables on hand, the food.
Right, we don't.
But the equipment itself is available for use.
Yeah, our cook would have to stop by Walmart or somewhere and pick up food.
Well, in like a tornado, it's amazing how much fresh food there is that needs to be cooked quickly, and there's just as many or more people that need it to be nourished. So
yeah, to keep going,
we can get it somewhere, because we have in the past gotten donations on food and water and stuff like that when we need it. So anyway, we're out there for that if anybody needs it.
Absolutely. Well, we've been at this for about 45 minutes now, so we'll go ahead and start wrapping up. So feel free to share this video. We just kind of wanted to put this information out there and hopefully dispel a few of the myths that are out there. We're not here to create trouble or take over the mayor's office or any such thing like that.
We want that.
We're just here to do what our motto says. We're serving community, county, and state. That you know, and we can do that all the better. The
So
more,
hit that like button and subscribe.
Absolutely.
And come back and come on out to training. If you don't know anything, we'll teach you. If you know something, teach us.
Absolutely.
Come on out.
Absolutely.
Each state does have a militia. I don't know any other state how to get a hold of them, so we can try to figure it out. We've got guys that come in from Arkansas to come and train with us sometimes because they don't have nothing there. If you want to start one, look up your counties or your government and your state, the Constitution, see what they have, then run off of that. If you want us to try to help you with anything with training and stuff, how we work, just put it down below and we'll see if we can get you some kind of information on how we train.
Absolutely. So on behalf of the guys here, thanks for being here.
Thanks,
and
guys. We appreciate
adding
you.
to the conversation, and we will catch you next time.
God's will. God bless.
Have a good night.
Are we offline?
Now.
We'll check.